I know that the Arkansas Alzheimer's Association does so much for not only patients and research, but also a main focus is placed on caregivers. In September, you have different sessions, I suppose, that are all online, all geared toward the caregiver. What are we talking about here?
The Empowered Caregiver series, education series, has been created to help caregivers navigate the journey of caregiving. Caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, it's never the same. It changes as the person changes throughout the disease. And so this is a series of education programs to provide caregivers with tips, person-centered approach tips to be able to navigate this journey.
So let's start with the first one, September 9th, building a foundation of caregiving. What will that entail?
That building foundations of caregiving really talks about how do we build that circle of care? Who do we need to get in our corner as we're going through this journey to help us? Maybe that's your physicians, maybe that's your neighbors, other family members, church members. What is it that they can offer that you can then help you in the future? But it also talks about how you as a caregiver need to be able to care for yourself during this journey. So it's building your circle of care, but also making sure that you are understanding the need to care for yourself.
Caring for yourself has to be the number one thing, I would think.
Yes, caregivers of individuals with dementia tend to have more of a emotional toll that's taken on them, higher instances of depression. It's also a very financially difficult disease as a caregiver when you're trying to pay for care or for help. So it does take a huge toll, and caregivers tend to ignore their own physical health. They're missing their appointments because of they can't maybe take their person with them to the doctor. They're stressed, they're not getting any sleep. And so physically, they're not taking care of themselves either.
Let's talk about the next one that kind of goes into you want to be a caregiver, but you also want to support independence for the person you're giving the care to. So that's on September 16th. Give us a brief what on that will be.
Yeah, so that's the second in the series, in the five-part series, and just what it says, supporting independence. How do you allow the person you're caring for to be independent as long as possible? Because that's what you want. And so it gives tips and strategies for helping them to maintain that independence as long as possible.
So the third session is interesting. Communication is such a big thing, not only for the caregiver, but the families involved. That'll be on September 23rd. What will that session entail?
This is one of my favorite sessions because communication is so important for the person with dementia and for the caregiver to understand, right? The disease affects the communication ability of the person with dementia. And so we as caregivers have to adjust the way we understand communication. We have to really think about nonverbal communication with these individuals, meaning what are they telling us nonverbally, but also understanding that our nonverbal communication is a lot of times what they pick up on. So it's tips and strategies for what that communication can look like throughout the different stages of the disease.
You just can't be too clear as to what the message needs to be between caregivers, families, and the person with dementia.
And if you as a caregiver, if you're a spouse or a child caring for someone, to be able to tell people who come into the home to visit, maybe that's other family members coming at a holiday, being able to give them those tips and strategies as well as they are interacting with the individual who's been diagnosed.
Something that I've noticed with my dad when my mother was diagnosed with dementia, responding to dementia-related behaviors. I remember in the early onset of this, man, he had a hard time responding to things like this. How that's going to be on September 30th. How important is that session going to be?
Oh, this is another great important session that I love because often it's the behaviors that caregivers get frustrated about and they don't know how to handle that, whether that's wandering or repeating themselves or the paranoia or sort of the hallucinations. And so really what we try to talk about in this section is that actually behaviors from someone with dementia is actually a form of communication. They're trying to tell you maybe that they feel unsafe or they're uncomfortable. And so, again, it's that person centered approach to really walk through. We have a four-step process we teach to walk through and try to figure out why is my person having anxiety right now? We need to meet them in the situation they're in, and how do we do that and sort of redirect to have a better outcome.
It also, I would think, would relieve some of that frustration on both sides of the conversation.
Right. Yes. If you can really work, sometimes a behavior is simply because someone's hungry and they can't tell you that they're hungry. And so maybe they get very anxious or upset. So it might just be sort of thinking about, okay, oh, wait, he hasn't eaten since 8 a.m. and it's already 3 p.m. Maybe he's hungry, and that might be all that it is, right? It might be that they're seeing someone in the backyard that's not there, and that's scary for them. And so it's messaging and key points about how do we join their reality and then get them away from that to redirect them to something else so that they're not thinking about that anymore.
And then, of course, there is I can't imagine that there is a single caregiver that ever thought or that didn't have a thought of I'm doing this by myself. There's nobody else that's had to do this. I'm all on an island by myself. So October 7th, exploring care and support services. To me there can't be enough support services for caregivers.
hmm Yeah, so we like to talk about what we offer at the association as far as our support groups and our 1-800 helpline and all of those things. We also want caregivers to understand when a physician or someone is talking about hospice or palliative care or memory care and assist, what is the difference between all of those? And so we kind of want to help caregivers understand all those terms and what kind of care each one of those provides.
All right, so a caregiver wants to do all these sessions. What's the easiest way to get involved in this?
The easiest way is to email me at jithompson@alz.org and get you registered so you can have the Zoom link. You can also go to alz.org/CRF and search for programs in Arkansas, and you can register that way as well.
One of the best things about this, it is absolutely free.
Yes, it's free, it's virtual. We want everyone to have access to this education because, again, as you said, caregivers don't need to feel like they're alone going through this journey. And they don't need to feel like there's no help for them. And so we want to be able to reach everyone, every caregiver in the state with this education opportunity.
All right, this is one of a number of series of seminars, I like to call them, or educational programs that you all do. We will be talking more about that as the year progresses and into next year, because I know each month has something very special.
Okay, sounds wonderful.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.